Denial is a powerful force that helps us handle emotional pain, but by doing this long term, more and more damage is done, and the problem just gets worse and worse. It's important to remember that denial harms, not helps.
Denial is one of the hardest things at the beginning stage of all this, because you see things that you don't want to believe are drugs. You just make excuses, and my daughter was getting sick, and her behavior had changed. She had stopped bathing, for instance. She wasn't washing her hair, and she was wearing the same clothes for 3 or 4 days, and she didn't want to go anywhere. When somebody finally told me for sure that she was using drugs, and that was what was causing all of her symptoms, then I finally had to face it.
As far as denial goes, it to me wasn't even a word at the beginning. I just flat outright did not see my son as an addict. I saw other people, I saw his wife, but I certainly didn't see him as the addict. I realized, some of the things he's saying, some of the things he's doing couldn't possibly be true. So I feel that if a family member picks up on something that seems outlandish or less than credible, it's time to put your antennae up and say, let's hone in on this and look a little closer.
The most difficult thing we had to deal with was the complexity, the intricacy, and the sheer tenacity of the deception. We got to the point where we were being told such fantastic stories that had someone else told us those stories, we would have scoffed. But since there was just a minute possibility that this was true and it was our child, that often brought us to make very, very poor decisions. We gradually learned through some very hard experiences that to detach was really the loving option.
Oftentimes when I talk to families, they know in their gut that something is wrong, but the addict or the alcoholic is telling them a whole different kind of story. And believe me, people who are actively using and wanting to hide that and cover them up can become very skillful and very manipulative and can lie beautifully. It's an incredible skill. So when I get a little cynical with somebody who's getting the runaround, I say, how do you know when an addict or an alcoholic who is actively using is lying? And they say, oh, I don't know, that's a good question. I said, their lips are moving. So, I mean, that's a little extreme, but it kind of gets the point across that really sift everything that they're saying with a grain of salt. You don't have to go around and check everything, but confront the person directly and say things like, I don't believe you.
I think probably the most important thing for families to know is that it can happen to anybody. And don't be in denial about it.
Denial is death when it comes to addiction.
You are neither the cause of your loved one's addiction, nor will you be the cure. But you can choose to face your denial. Then you can choose to get help for yourself.